Hi, and welcome to the podcast Making Sense, brought to you by Navy Federal Credit Union. I'm your host, Emily Bigham, and each week I'll be taking your questions to the experts to help you make sense of your money, pun intended. Today on Making Sense, we're sharing tips on how to save and grow towards your financial goals. To help me do that, I have two experts joining me. CJ Poitkowski is the Assistant Vice President of Savings Products Operations at Navy Federal, and Thomas Rocca, Manager of Personal Finance Management. Thank you for being here today. So spring is in the air, and it's the perfect time to refresh financial goals and spring clean your saving habits. CJ and Thomas have 3 things you can do right now to get back on track and create a savings plan that works for your lifestyle. So CJ, why is saving something that you are passionate about?
Yeah, so thanks again, Emily. And I've been with Navy Federal Credit Union for 13 years now, and almost the entirety of my time here has been in the savings products division. And so I work closely with these products, with our savings account and checking account and certificates and IRAs. The best part of my job, other than the people I work with, is I use these products. I have a savings account. I have a checking account. I have certificates. My wife and I have 2 boys. They're both teenagers. And as we get into the spring now, it's time for them to find their spring and summer jobs. They're going to work at snack bars, at the Little League field and at our pool. And I sat down and talked with them just a couple of weeks ago about how we're going to kind of manage our money. We're going to put some money into their savings account, and we're going to carve some money out that they can spend with their friends and go on adventures throughout the summer and the springtime. So this is a perfect topic and a perfect time to talk about this topic, as we just did this at our house.
Great. And Thomas, what about you? Why do you like this topic of savings?
All right, that's a great point, Siege. I love sharing the personal example. I can tell you in personal finance management, we speak to between 10 and 15,000 members a month, and almost every single one of them has exhausted their savings or never took the time to set something up. And each one of those stories really drives home the point of how important having a rainy day fund is, because it really is going to help set you up and not put you behind when life events happen to you.
All right, so let's get into it. Those 3 steps to financial growth: spring clean your finances, make smart saving strategies, and then choose the right savings tools. So CJ, can you get into the spring clean your finances? What does that mean?
Yeah, so it really is the perfect time to kind of evaluate where you are with your accounts, where you want to be with your accounts, and to kind of organize what's coming down the pipeline for you for the next 9, 10, 12 months. We're at the beginning of the year, right? You're trying to plan your finances for the rest of the year and maybe into the following year as it relates to maybe projects around the house, trips that you're going to take, any other expenses that you can predict, because Thomas already mentioned some of the expenses you might not be able to predict and being set up for that. Other reason why it's a great time of the year to be thinking about this is it's tax season, and you might be getting a refund. You might be wondering what to do with that money. And so perfect time to sit down, kind of take inventory of where you are, figure out what expenses you might want to set some money aside for, and then plan accordingly for those.
Yeah, Thomas, anything to add to spring clean your finances?
Oh, goodness, this is a wonderful time to really take stock and sit down with a pen and paper and take a look at where your money is going. It's something that we often sit down and do, and then as our incomes grow or we deal with different things in the economy, we look back and we say, "Oh my goodness, when did such and such an expense start to get away from us?" So to that spring cleaning your finances, it's a great time to just sit down with those in your household, start the discussion, and make sure that the numbers that you have in your mind, the numbers that you put on your budget weeks, months, years ago, ensuring that they're still accurate and making sure that they're still in touch with reality.
Right. So one of the things that we talk about a lot is eliminating those unnecessary costs. I have a hard time with this one. I think all of my costs are necessary. So can you give an example of what, unnecessary versus unnecessary costs might be?
For sure. We have reached a point where so many of our costs are smaller, but they're on a subscription model now. And many of us don't take that time to look at that recurring $5, $10, $15 charge. And eventually, when those start to add up, you can start talking some real money. So one of the things that CJ touched on is getting money into that savings account when it's found, right? If it's tax season, if it's a lump sum. But when you're sitting down and you look at your checking account or your credit card charges, one of the things that we like to advise people to do is take stock on what is something that we can carve out. So let me give you a few actionable items that you could do today. One of my favorite things to point out is your TV streaming services, right? How many different items are you paying for, and how much television are you really watching? So one of the things that we encourage people to do is, hey, look at what streamer you're going to watch this month, sign up for that, cancel the others. It's really easy to do nowadays, and get it all out of the way. Watch what you want to watch in the library. And when you're done with that, move on to the next streaming services. And you can cut up to $100 a month out of your monthly spending just by that simple hack. And there's so many of those things that you could do that are going to create found money for you. And money found is almost as great as money earned.
It's so perfect, Thomas. You're like speaking into my soul. So you might remember I mentioned we have 2 teenage boys in our house. I think we have a subscription to every music and video streaming service right now. And for me personally, it's, I remind myself because I get notifications on my phone and emails whenever there's a charge that goes through. And every month it's, at the end of this month, I need to sit down and take inventory on those streaming services. And I do it about once a year. I really need to do it more often because it is crazy how many different subscriptions we have.
Yes, CJ, we have a lot of certified counselors on the personal finance management team. And I will use this as a quick opportunity to plug this service. If you are looking for personalized guidance, please do go onto the website, link in the show notes. Please go on, put a pen to paper, and take the opportunity to speak with a financial expert. But I'm going to tell you one other thing that we hear pretty regular, CJ, because I love giving actionable advice. When people start to look at their budget and they say, where did my money go? The other big thing is the cost of groceries today. And you go in, you talk about teenagers, and I'm curious if impulse buys become a thing for you. But one of the things we encourage people to do is go online, do an order, do curbside pickup, and remove the temptation of walking around the store, especially with kids.
You're speaking again to my soul. So the way it works in our house is for about 5 days, we ask the boys what they want to add to the grocery list, and we hear nothing. And my wife and I have the list ready to go. And then we get hit with 10 to 15 text messages while we're actually grocery shopping with add-ons that they thought about at the last minute. So yes, planning out a little bit further ahead would certainly help with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are great actionable tips. I have a 2-year-old, and I try to avoid going to the grocery store with her. And so curbside pickup has been, the big thing for us, and it really does help. And also if you can, talking about subscriptions, if you can, diapers, I have a diaper subscription, which is great because then I'm not waiting last minute and then running to the store where they're, marked up. Little things like that. So those are great actionable tips. Any other, things that people can do right now, Thomas, that you guys tend to give advice about?
Yeah, so people are all in different stages of their financial journeys. And if you're listening to this and you already have a savings account, your budget's already made up, one of the next level items that you could try and pursue is learning how to maximize your credit card spending. You made a really good point, Emily. You have a rotating subscription, or you have a rotating charge going for diapers, or maybe you shop for groceries at the same place. Look for loyalty programs. Look for cards that are going to maximize your points, And if you get in the habit of using the same card where it's going to maximize your benefits, max out those points, make sure that you pay off the card in full every month. You can turn something that gets people into trouble, credit card debt, and you can actually turn that into something that becomes a moneymaker for your household.
Yeah, and I also love to use a credit card for a budgeting tool to see, where are those recurring expenses? Where are those subscriptions? I had to get a new credit card, and so they sent me a new credit card number. And you won't believe the things that pop up in my email, like, "Oh, can you please update your payment?" And I'm like, "Actually, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to cancel the service because I didn't even know I was paying for it." So not encouraging people to, do that, but it was, I think you can use your credit card for, like an educational tool and budgeting tool also, if you tend to use just one.
There are so many budgeting tools available out there, right now, right? I know Navy Federal has MakingCents with a bunch of self-service tools and calculators, videos, articles, educational materials, where if you've started to run a loan or credit card debt and you're curious how long it's going to take you to pay off, or going the other way, if you've started to build up a savings account and you're curious how long it will take you at today's rates to reach your goal, there are some wonderful tools in there we encourage you to take a peek at.
Great. We'll make sure to put those in the show notes. So moving on to number 2, smart saving strategies. CJ, you seem to be really into this right now with your 2 teenage boys. So what are some of those smart saving strategies that you teach to your sons?
Yeah, so we talk about all the things that we've already mentioned, right? Budgeting tools, MakingCents, the tool that's available to Navy Federal members, looking at recurring charges and planning out future expenses, things like that. The other item that we've talked about in our house is, and we kind of mentioned this as well, is setting money aside for an emergency fund, but also how you can kind of automate money getting deposited into that. And I'm talking about recurring transfers and automatic transfers. And so one of the things that we stress to our members is the importance of establishing that emergency fund for those unexpected expenses that arise. A great way to do that is to open a separate savings account, set up a recurring transfer into that account, which allows the balance to grow over time until your goal is met. And there's no amount that's too small for that recurring transfer. $10 or $20 on a recurring basis will start to add up. And so for our boys, what we talk about is the money that they make in the spring and the summer at these jobs that they're working, that needs to carry them throughout the school year when they're playing sports and doing activities, and they might not have as much time to work. And so what we do is we'll set aside a little bit of money for them to spend, but set aside a little money for them to put into their savings account so they have it. This isn't automatic because they're bringing a paycheck home and they're not quite set up as some of us are in the real world or in the professional world. But we do make that really easy at Navy Federal to automate savings, to automate recurring deposits into an account that you can just kind of store money there, whether it's for an emergency fund or for anything else that you have earmarked as an expense coming up. So can't emphasize enough the importance of being able to set up those automatic transfers, because it takes all the thinking away from it. The money automatically goes there, and over time, it definitely builds up, and it's really cool to watch.
Is there a limit to how many savings or checking accounts you can open at Navy Federal?
We don't have a limit. You can open savings accounts. You can open checking accounts. You can nickname them and have them, specifically tailored to what you're saving for. Systematically, there might be a limit when you get into into kind of like the higher numbers, but what we see typically, and when I sit and look over members' accounts while I'm shadowing in the contact center or in the branches, is we have members that have 5 or 6 different savings accounts or 5 or 6 different checking accounts, and they have them kind of earmarked for specific purposes. I think it's great to see.
CJ, you made a really good point with the automation. And it's funny, we just were involved in a conversation with Bob Frick, our economist here, and often time guest of the show. But he made a wonderful point talking about some of the behavioral things that people need to be aware of. And when you can have it done out of your paycheck, as opposed to your boys taking it, cashing the checks and putting it into an account. And I had never heard this before, but he said it's human nature that when you pull money out consciously and put it into a savings account, it feels like a loss. It actually feels like you're losing money because it's not in your normal spend, so to speak. So there are so many little things like that, and that's a great point. Where if you can set it, you can start to behave your way into the good habits. A great point.
That reminds me of savings products, which is our tip number 3, right? Choose the products that work best for you. I have a CD from Navy Federal, and it's set up to go into an account. And so, you don't really look at it, and then at the end of the year, you see how much money that you were able to accrue. It's very exciting. But the behavioral part is good too. So you have to make the automation work for you. So just like these companies that try to get you to sign up for subscriptions and you kind of forget about it, make that work for you. Do it for yourself. Make it automatic. Are there any other budgeting tools or savings products that our members need to know about? CJ, I'll start with you.
Yeah, well, thank you. Hey, segue. So we talk about choosing the right savings tools, right? And this is right up our alley over in the savings products division, right? So for more immediate expenses, you'll typically want to keep your savings liquid and available. So a savings account or a money market savings account, MMSA, is probably the best option for you. MMSAs typically have a higher interest rate, but often they require a little bit of a higher balance than a savings account. But those accounts will let you have access really quickly to your money if you should need it. If you're planning for a longer term project or trip that's down the road, that's when you might want to look into our certificate products. Certificates often provide a higher rate of return than a savings account, but there are terms associated with it, and terms last anywhere from 3 months to 7 years. Some of our certificates, as Emily mentioned, offer the members flexibility to add money at any time. That's a feature that's not typically offered at other financial institutions, and it's a really great way to build your savings through a certificate vehicle, which is pretty cool. So depending on how quickly you think you need access to those funds will lead you into whether you're looking at a savings account, a money market savings account, or maybe a certificate. On the checking side, we tend to think of our checking accounts as our transactional accounts. Those are for everyday expenses. We have checking accounts designed for members in every stage of life, from teenagers opening their first account to our active duty military to members who are more established financially. We definitely have a checking account for you, and we continue to enhance these accounts. We offer personalized financial insights, real-time money management capabilities. We have built-in credit score building and monitoring tools. And recently we eliminated our non-sufficient funds, NSF fees, that members would incur if they didn't have enough money in their account to cover a transaction. So always enhancing these products, always looking at how we can make these products better for our members. But I think the overall idea is we have a lot of products and services out there. We definitely have something to help you at whatever stage you are in life or whatever you're trying to save money for.
So thinking again about my 2-year-old and saving for college and those educational expenses, what are some options for that long-term planning?
Yeah, so we also offer options there, and it's a great tool to have. And the earlier you start thinking about that, the better, right? We know the expense of college can be overwhelming. So the earlier, the better for that. We offer a wide range of products. We have what's called ESAs, which is an educational savings account, and we can open certificates under the ESA umbrella, which helps save money for those expenses down the line. We can also talk you through, and our sister company, NFIS, can talk through 529 plans and how you might want to invest in those plans that let you kind of be invested in the market, but under the umbrella of this money is set aside for savings for college for children as they grow up and grow closer to that date. But point being, and why this is important to talk about now, is never too early to start savings for that, given the expense that it is. And we have those products, we have those services. We're happy to talk through those with you all.
Great. Yeah. And it's good to know that we have a partnership for those 529 plans, because I've heard a lot about those. So what about investing? Is that something that you guys typically talk to members about? Should they be invested? Do you have to be in a certain financial stage in your life to start investing?
Yeah, I think from our side, Thomas, I'm interested to hear your point too. I think it would probably be closely aligned with this. Our primary focus is making sure members have that emergency fund ready for them. And then once they do that, starting to establish additional savings habits, right? And this is, you've got your emergency fund taken care of. Now I'm going to start projecting out for any projects I have around the house or any trips I want to go on. Start building up those money market savings account or savings account balances. Then for us, the natural transition from there is once you're on solid ground there and comfortable with that, we tend to look at our certificates and our IRAs and the product offering we have there. I think the next step after that is if you're in a really comfortable place, it would be to say, all right, what more can I do? If you're in that position, first of all, kudos. That's awesome. That means you have healthy financial savings habits established. And that's when I think you can talk to either a professional or you can talk to some other areas within our credit union to see what options are out there for you. But the way I kind of have always looked at it, Thomas, is it's kind of a ladder, right? You're starting with the first step is, let me make sure I get my expenses under control. Second step is that emergency savings account. Third step is additional accounts where I'm projecting out and planning for the future. Then it's almost certificates and those types of products. And then you're really ready to make the leap into some more advanced savings and investing options.
Yeah, CJ, I think that's a really good summary. So a couple of things I would just piggyback on because the latter is a wonderful analogy. Talk about a couple of thresholds maybe for some of those different markers, and just a couple things to keep in mind. First off, when you're building an emergency fund, and you talked about wanting to make sure you keep it liquid, keep it on hand. A general guideline for that is anywhere between 1 and 6 months of living expenses, depending on where you're at in your life, right? And that can take some time to get to. And then once you do move past that and you start to get into the investing side, one caveat, one exception maybe to that is being mindful of any benefits that might be available to you, like an employer benefit on a retirement account. So if you are in a position where you have a great match on a 401k or a Roth 401, whatever the case may be, I would say first and foremost, make sure that you are maximizing that to get the match, so you're not leaving free money on the table.
Yeah, that's definitely something that everyone should look at in their 401ks. And thank you, Thomas, for kind of setting aside, the 1 to 6 months of living expenses, because that was going to be my follow-up question is, okay, we have, the emergency fund, the money market, then maybe CDs and IRAs, and then thinking about investing. But how do you know that you have enough funds in any of those categories to be able to move on to the next? So you said 1 to 6 months for emergency funds. What about in, those money market or other saving accounts? Like what do you think is substantial enough to then move on to CDs?
I would say based on the experience, based on the guidance that we give, 3 months of emergency savings in an account is generally a wonderful target for most of the population. Once you get past that, throwing a little bit of money into a certificate at a set rate of return and CJ pointed out some great rates, some very competitive products that Navy Federal has in the market. And as you're looking at your risk tolerance and whatnot, I would say once you hit that 3-month emergency savings mark, start to throw as much money as you can into some type of CD where you're going to continue to get a higher rate of return. And then, so I would say that based on your age, based on your income, based on where you live, based on your assets, there's a lot of different things that you're going to need to consider. And to CJ's point, consider speaking with an expert, right? Look at our NFIS business partners. But if you have enough disposable income and you're willing to take a swing in the market and you have enough in your savings account, I think it's great to start to be aggressive and get out there and start to throw money into the market, and just be mindful that past performance is never indicative of future returns.
Right. Yeah, I think if someone's just starting to invest, they should definitely talk to a professional. So is there anything that we haven't talked about today? We've talked about so many, good tools, so many smart saving strategies, different ways to budget. Is there anything that we haven't talked about, CJ?
So I think from my standpoint, the one thing I would like to chime in with is the tricky part is staying motivated, right? And tracking your progress, overcoming common barriers and things like that. We kind of hit on it a little bit, but staying on plan can be difficult. And I think setting milestones, setting goals can help generate not just action, but a sense of accomplishment. On our MakingCents app, we can help our members set and track goals, analyze spending, building a budget, monitoring credit scores. It's all right there for our members. And anytime you can link milestones and kind of feel that sense of accomplishment, it energizes you, it keeps you engaged, it keeps you wanting to continue down that path. And I think that's so important. We know how hard that is. It's the easy part is saying, yes, I want to do something, I want to take action. Sitting down, making out and crafting out a plan can be fun because it's exciting, because it's a change and it's moving in the right direction. Sticking with it month after month can kind of be difficult. And these are tools that will help you do that because it is so important. And the sense of accomplishment that comes with it is so great to feel.
Thomas, what about you? Anything that you'd like to add or anything that we've missed today?
Frequently, the message that we try and get out there is just start. Just start to make some habits. Get 10, 20, $30 a pay period into a savings account and start to make it a part of your identity. Start to try to identify yourself as the person who doesn't carry credit card debt month to month. Start to identify as the person that is building an emergency fund and being the type that is going to have those types of labels associated with yourself. And the most important thing for all of those folks is actually take the time, sit down with your budget, and use the tools that CJ and I have talked about. Learn what your credit is, know how much discretionary income you have, make it a household thing, make it a game, find who can save the most money in the house. There's so many items out there, so many opportunities out there to save, but it's going to take effort. There is no magic pill. It is going to be something that you have to work on and you have to work at for a long time, but it's absolutely worth it.
Yes, I agree. Just like you go to the gym to, take care of your body, you can't just go once and expect that you're just going to be able to run miles. Same thing with your financial health. Some things you can set it and forget it, right? But for most of those things, you should really sit down and have a plan depending on what your financial goals are, short-term and long-term. Well, thank you both for coming on today to talk about this. I know I learned a lot. I took a lot of notes, things that I'm going to do. I'm going to set a goal for the next 30 days, and I hope our listeners are as well, because you gave a lot of really great actionable tips. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure. Thomas, thanks. Emily, thank you again.
It was a pleasure. Thank you to you both, and looking forward to next time. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you, CJ and Thomas.
Navy Federal Credit Union is federally insured by the National Credit Union Administration. This podcast is intended to provide general information and shouldn't be considered legal, tax, or financial advice. It's always a good idea to consult a tax or financial professional for specific information on how certain laws may apply to your individual financial situation. References to and participation with the military community does not constitute organizational endorsement. Navy Federal is an equal housing lender. Navy Federal Credit Union are members of the mission.